Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles Advance. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the DREAMERSPRO show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment. We'll give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today we have an excellent show for you guys here today. But before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and sub to the channel, and also sign up to our free newsletter called Champions Digest. We have it pinned in the comments below. It's absolutely free. So we appreciate it if you guys supported us. And make sure you follow me on Instagram. My handle is CTABANZ. So let's get into this topic. Now, this is something that I've been itching to discuss, right? Because we spent the last few weeks discussing Senator Mark Kelly. And he made a lot of headlines over the last, let me say, 3-4 weeks after him and some of his colleagues put out a compilation video where they were addressing military members, Navy, and all of them, where they were essentially saying to them that, look, you have to remember that you were within your right to disobey unlawful orders. Well, these comments sparked a nationwide debate. Even the president himself, President Donald Trump, he jumped into the fray and he absolutely, he chastised Senator Mark Kelly for his comments. Even Stephen A. Smith, yes, Stephen A. Smith, he decided to jump out there and make an absolute fool of himself, which actually kept this conversation going because he went on The View, right? And instead of retracting his comments, because a lot of people that have served, a lot of men and women that have served and are currently serving, basically came out and said, Senator Mark Kelly is correct. You are told in the military that you're meant to disobey illegal orders. Now, if you disobey a lawful order, then you're going to be reprimanded for that, because now you're disobeying the chain of command, which was something that the president tried to absolutely convolute and distort. The president tried to make it seem like he was saying disobey the chain of order. And as a matter of fact, it was what Stephen A. Matter of fact, you know what? Just to give you guys some context of just how ridiculous this thing got, I want to quickly play what Stephen A. Smith had to say on The View, because it shows you just how convoluted the conversation became. So take a quick listen to Stephen A. Smith here on The View, just spewing his nonsense all over the table. Take a listen to him here quickly.
And you had some really sharp criticisms of Democrats in the election for having sort of lost touch with the issues the voters cared about.
Yep.
How are you feeling now, a year into Trump? And what do you make of this discussion around affordability and him saying it seems like it's a scam from Democrats?
Well, that's rhetoric on his part. There's nothing surprising or unpredictable about that. You could see that coming from a mile away, because he has to say that right now because it's an issue and a concern for the American people. And he wants to act as if there is no concern because everything he's doing is just so beautiful and so marvelous and what have you. But in the end, the Democrats give the credit where credit is due at this particular moment in time. I think that they've learned from some of their mistakes anyway. When you see what happened in New York with Mamdani, when you see what happens in New Jersey with Cheryl as the governor, when you see what happens with Spanberger in Virginia, clearly there's something that's going on within the Democratic establishment that's saying, let's focus on real issues that are pertinent to the American people. Let's make sure we articulate ourselves appropriately so we don't lose sight of what the message should be. Leading up to the election, they did just that, and I thought they handed him the election as opposed to him actually winning it. Now they're forcing him to play ball and figure out a way to beat them because they're coming and they're gaining some momentum. We'll see what happens.
Now, let me just remind you that Pete Hegseth said in 2016, I do think there have to be consequences for abject war crimes. If you're doing something that is just completely unlawful and ruthless, then there is a consequence for that. That's why the military said it won't follow unlawful orders from their commander-in-chief. Okay. Now, given the fact that the secretary himself said that, I'd love to give you the opportunity to perhaps change your position on what you said.
I'm not changing a thing.
Okay.
I didn't stutter when I said it.
You want to stay loud and wrong?
Well, you could call it loud and wrong all you want to. You're entitled to your opinion. I'm entitled to mine.
Okay.
Here's the reality of the situation. First of all, I don't give a damn what Pete Hegseth has to say, because I will tell you right now, he was never qualified for the job. When you talk about DEI and eradicating that, excuse me, what was he doing hosting Fox News on the weekend and all of a sudden he's the defense secretary? Please, give me a break. I don't care what he has to say. Let me get that out the way. As it pertains to Mark Kelly, what I was talking about is military. What I did was get on the phone with family and friends who have served in the military. And I said, we're not civilians. This is not the court of law. You can be implicated for implying something if you are a former military member or you are a present military member. It wasn't what Mark Kelly said. It's the fact that he was a combat Navy pilot who served in the military, who would tell folks, ignore an order when it could get
Ignore
them
an
in the
illegal
wrong
He
order.
did not say
I said
ignore.
illegal.
what he
I said
said.
illegal. I'm talking about illegal. I understand that.
He said you don't have
But-
to follow an unlawful order, and that is in the military code of conduct.
And I'm saying to you, hold on, which I'm aware of.
But it didn't sound like you were aware of that.
Well,
during your
no.
show.
I disagree with you. It
Stephen,
sounded
can
like
I ask you a question?
I had two governors, by the way,
Well-
text me to tell me I was wrong, and they agree with you.
You are wrong.
I had two senators that reached out to me and said you weren't wrong at all.
Well, Mikey Sherrill did say that the reason they felt the need to put that out is they were constantly being approached by people in the military saying, we're being put in really uncomfortable
Yeah.
situations.
But-
that to me is a little more relatable when you're a veteran yourself.
But I'm saying let me say this real quick.
You
'cause
gotta do it real quick. Or wait till we come back.
All I'm saying is this. If you're a member of the military, I'm looking at the soldiers as saying, don't get yourself in trouble. Let somebody else do it. Don't you do it because it ain't gonna work for you.
Okay, great. So you heard him. So anyway, I was just going through the internet. This was on Sunday, yes, and I came across an episode from the David Pacman show, and I watched David Pacman. For those of you who don't know him, he's totally different than a lot of the political commentators out there. He's very measured. He's not out there to clickbait you or he's not out there to make headlines. As a matter of fact, I was listening to one of the shows where he recently said that he turned down an invitation from the Piers Morgan show because he just wasn't willing to get into the jungle and just start acting like a damn fool, which usually was what goes on the Piers Morgan show. Just a bunch of hollering and screaming. They're going out there to get a lot of clips and get people, got a lot of gotcha moments. That's pretty much what that's about. But to my surprise, I saw a video from his channel with the thumbnail saying, or the title saying, Trump is messing with the wrong guy. And on the thumbnail, you see Senator Mark Kelly and President Donald Trump. Little did I know that Mark Kelly, the Democrat from Arizona, was actually going to be on the show. So when I clicked on the video, to my surprise, they went directly into it. And David Pacman went directly to the point where he asked him to respond to some of the things that the president and some of his supporters have said about him after that video went viral of him and his colleagues basically telling military members to remember you don't have to obey unlawful orders. And I got to tell you, man, Mark Kelly, he did not back down. As a matter of fact, he went directly at the president. So what we want to do is I want to play his comments for you now, and I'm going to come back and continue on the show. Take a listen to what he had to say here.
It is great to have back on the program today Senator Mark Kelly representing Arizona. Senator, great to have you on. You know, there are so many places we could start. In the context of the last 2 to 3 weeks, the video you participated in with 5 of your colleagues reminding members of the armed forces, remember, if you receive illegal orders, it is your duty to say, we are not going to do that. The threats, the targeting from Donald Trump and the people around him, just on a personal level, are the threats at this point as intense as they've ever been? How are you dealing with that on a logistical level?
Well, yeah, when arguably the most powerful man in the world, who has a huge following, who has a lot of supporters out there, says that I should be hanged, executed for something I said, by the way, something that was true and lawful, and in not only the Uniform Code of Military Justice, but in our rules of armed conflict. When he says that I should be executed, it does result in more threats, not only to me but to my family as well.
Is it making you skittish about, like, we covered the town hall that you did, which was really interesting. Are you thinking about pulling back at all?
No, of course not. If I was to take a step back because of Donald Trump's intimidation and DOD and DOJ's intimidation of me, that diminishes everybody's First Amendment rights. I said something he didn't like. He wanted to shut me up. And he's going to use the full force of the U.S. government to try to do that. But I'm not going to back down from him or anybody else. I've served this country for decades. I fought in combat. I flew into space on the space shuttle 4 times, working at NASA. I've given a lot to this country, and so has my wife. She nearly lost her life serving her country, speaking with her constituents in a rather heightened political climate, and she got shot in the head and nearly died. Gabby and I are not ones to back down from this guy or anybody else.
I want to delve in a little bit to the discussion about legal versus illegal orders. You know, on the one hand, why did you feel the need to remind troops about that responsibility? On the other hand, when some of your colleagues have been asked, have there been any illegal orders issued by Trump or people around him so far? There's been, at least as far as I've seen, a hesitation to say, yes, here's the 3 illegal orders that should have been refused. Although now the context of this double tap attack on this alleged narco trafficking boat is raising questions about that. But talk a little bit about the timing. Like, why was that a reminder you felt the troops needed?
Well, it's a number of things. So we know who Donald Trump is, and we have a record of what he has said in the past. If you go back to 2016, he was on a debate stage. This was before he was president. So he's running for president the first time. And he says that the U.S. military should be killing the family members of terrorists. Hey, nobody likes terrorists, right? And in certain circumstances, we kill terrorists. I get that. But women and children, candidate Donald Trump said we should kill women and children. Brett Baier, Fox News, said, well, the military is not going to carry that out because that would be illegal. Donald Trump's response was, the military will not refuse my orders. Like somehow he's above the law and he has so much influence over members of the military that there is not a circumstance where they would refuse him, even if it was illegal. Then later, as president, he talked about shooting protesters, U.S. citizens, who are protesting in the legs. Clearly, that would be illegal for the U.S. military to do that. It didn't happen. He's more recently talked about sending U.S. troops into more cities, and they could use those cities for training. Now, I mean, did that get as much attention as I thought it should have received? No. But what he is saying is he wants the United States military, the Army, the Marine Corps, to train on U.S. citizens. That's unprecedented. So you combine all that stuff and with what he has said recently, that we're just gonna kill people. You know, when asked about certain things, we're just gonna kill people. No authorization of military force, no going to Congress, no, hey, it's in my authority to conduct kinetic strikes on legal targets. Donald Trump from the White House says, we're just going to kill people. And then he appoints the most unqualified Secretary of Defense that our country has ever seen. It's not debatable. This guy is unqualified for this job. And he brings all the admirals and generals and senior enlisted in, and he runs around on a stage talking about lethality and hunting and killing people, and disparages the rules of engagement like they're a joke. Those rules of engagement are not only to protect our moral authority as the United States of America, that we do not violate the law, it's also there to protect members of the military. So myself and others, I'm concerned for the guys in the military that are trying to do a hard job. I've done this job before. It can be challenging under the best of circumstances. And you put these two jokers in charge, and they could put members of the military in a really difficult position. So we thought it was the appropriate thing to do at the appropriate time. Like this was the right time to do it.
So you heard what the senator had to say there. What are my thoughts about this? Well, I want to talk about, and I think he alluded to this a little bit in the sound here, but I want to talk about why he felt it was important for him to come out there and him and his colleagues to disseminate this message. I think it's high time we get to the point where the opposition, in this case the Democrats, grow a backbone and really stand firm in their positions. If you listen to the senator here, he didn't sound like he was trembling. He didn't sound like he was mincing his words. He didn't sound like as if he was afraid of the position or he wasn't sure of his position. He was like, no, you are meant to obey the law. And as someone that is served I am more than qualified to tackle this particular subject. That's number one. Number two, him saying this speaks to a lot of the fears that a lot of Americans have. I know a lot of people voted for the president, and he has the mandate, as he has said on multiple occasions, to run the country and do what it is he said that he ran on, and a lot of people support him. A lot of the people within his coalition, although it's important to say that his approval rating is in the dumps, right? And that's because even some of his supporters are beginning to jump ship. Just last show that we did, it was centered on some comments that Steve Bannon had to make about the president after the latest election that they had in Indiana, where he told the president, look, you better sit up because this thing is going to look bad for us in the midterms. Donald Trump is still trying to act like as if it's no big deal. He said he didn't really campaign there. He also said that grocery price is just something that's a part of our imagination. They're trying to hide the jobs report where we're losing jobs every quarter. So it's a total mess, right? It's an absolute mess on that front. And I think it's high time that people that are in the opposition, they state these things clearly. Usually in the past, Democrats have this thing of, oh, we're going to be above the fray. We're just going to play it clean. If they're going to get in the mud, we're just going to stay above that. We're not going to get dirt. No, that's not going to work anymore, right? A lot of your constituents, they want to see you guys fight back. Now, a person like, for example, Jasmine Crockett, she's very controversial. As a matter of fact, Stephen A. Smith went at her. But a lot of people that do support her, like, yes, we need some of that. We need somebody that's going to go in there and gum up the works and really go at the opposition. So that's the reason why she has a lot of support. And obviously, she's very good at fundraising. In the case of what Mark Kelly's saying, I think he's right. I think he's right because he's speaking to a lot of the fears that a lot of Americans have. Trust me. A lot of Americans feel like they're losing their democracy. A lot of Americans look at the United States these days and wonder, is this the country that I grew up in? A lot of people are asking this question. A lot of people are like, are we even abiding by the Constitution anymore? These are real fears. So whenever you have public figures and civil servants coming out there and speaking this way, obviously you're going to garner a lot of support. Obviously. Now, obviously, it doesn't mean that everyone likes what he has to say, which is fine, right? It's a free country. But nevertheless, I think that there needs to be a balance in the way things are done. And for too long, even if you look at the right side of the aisle, a lot of the president's supporters, a lot of them just seem to be going along with his agenda. Obviously, we saw a departure from that when it came to the vote for the Epstein files, and obviously what just took place in Indiana when they were trying to redistrict there, but they said no, right? Republicans said no. So you can actually witness a shift within the party. A lot of people are actually speculating that there's a fracture within MAGA. And what you're seeing is a lot of infighting. You see Candace Owens fighting with you have Ben Shapiro going at this way. Of course, you have Nick Fuentes. So you have a lot of people going at one another. You have Tucker Carlson there. It's a total mess, right? And while all of this is happening, food prices and grocery prices are not coming down. And at the end of the day, no matter how much someone may like a particular politician, if they're finding it difficult to feed themselves and their families, they're just going to jump ship, man. They're going to jump ship. A lot of Americans that voted for this current administration were sold on the idea of things were going to be better. We're going to be entering the golden age. And the only people that seem to be benefiting are those with a lot of money. Right. So I said at the beginning of the Donald Trump's presidency, I said, look, if you are someone that has money, that's planning to get some money, Trump may be the right person to vote for because you can make a lot of money. You see a lot of every day, you see people coming up talking about, oh, the stock market is doing well. Yeah, the stock market is doing well for those who have the income and the disposable income to invest. But if you don't have the disposable income, what business does the stock market have to do with you? What does it have to do with you? Everyday Americans don't have thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to be investing in the stock market. They don't. People are trying to figure out how they're going to pay their healthcare premiums, if their property taxes go up, how they're going to pay for their food. It's like people are not thinking about that. Most Americans are not thinking about that, right? So if you're talking about, oh, the economy is doing great, look at the stock market, that doesn't really resonate with everyday people. It really doesn't. So these are my thoughts on it. What I want to know from you guys, what do you think about what Senator Mark Kelly had to say? Do you agree with him? Do you disagree with him? And ultimately, do you think that the president is going to refute some of his comments if he does end up hearing what he had to say? Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section. We catch you guys on the next show, and I'm out. Peace.